There we go. Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Awesome.
Welcome.
Awesome.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. I've been a fan of yours. I've been watching your stuff. It's pretty funny.
Likewise, I've been doing the same thing.
That's good. I'm glad you reached out to me. It's always good when you get like hit up by some other creator that you've been watching and like, hey man, I like your stuff. I like your stuff too. It's like, sweet.
I try to check out everybody who comments on my stuff. So I saw your comment on the thing where I talked about someone trying to get me fired.
Mm-hmm.
And then I clicked through and I'm like, oh, this guy's got a following. And I started looking at your videos and followed you back. And
well, we have a similar theme in that we kind of say fuck you to cancel culture and the snowflakes.
And everybody.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I'm doing with this podcast. I feel like this is the theme of the conversations on this show is just a bunch of other creators like, yeah, I tried to get, or somebody tried to cancel me and I said no, or they tried to call my school and I had to decide, am I going to stand up for myself or what? And it's like, we all just have to band together and say, fuck you. Yep. We're not going anywhere.
Exactly.
It's throwing me off seeing you without your glasses. I feel like that's your trademark.
Should I put them on?
No, I mean, no, it's fine either way. It's just, I just recognize, like, I don't think I've actually ever seen your real face.
It's a thing. It's my thing, right? It's like, you got to have
it's good.
The signature, brandable look.
Yeah, no, that is good. I should probably do the same. I just have the sarcastic smirk that I do in half my videos. That's like my trademark and my like projection of my voice. But other than that, I don't think I have a identifiable mark.
Before I got into this, I used to speak at a lot of business conferences. And when 6 years ago, I went to Vegas and I'm like, I need some really weird pictures of me, like just weird. And I found the weirdest photographer in Las Vegas, like of all of Vegas, I found the weirdest guy. And he came and he had all of these wacky ideas. I had these wacky ideas. I said, the theme is, Hunter S. Thompson, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. That's the theme. And he came up with this idea, he's like, put your sunglasses on. I already had the messed up hair. And he's like, I'm going to get you in the bathtub, bubble bath with an ironing board, ironing cash.
Okay.
And I'm like, I'm so in. Yeah. And ever since then, that's kind of been the thing is I just put on the sunglasses and that's like my look.
That's
and
good.
It just works.
Every superhero needs a costume, right?
Exactly.
It seems like you are a fan of the superheroes, judging from your background.
I am a fan of the superheroes. I'm an adult child.
I was going to say, going through your stuff, I'm like, yeah, you seem like the kid who never grew up.
Yeah, the kid who was not allowed to have Mad magazines and compensating for it.
Yeah, you're like, fuck you, Mom. I'll show you one day. My whole basement will be Mad magazines. No, that's definitely not an insult. It's good to be a kid. There's so much of a theme too that I hear, especially these kids on TikTok, they'll comment like, aren't you like a 40 or 50-year-old man? Shouldn't you go do your taxes? It's like, kids, you don't even know. When you grow up, you're going to be wishing you were still a kid. We just actually live the life where we can just be kids forever.
Exactly. We figured it out. We cracked the code.
Yeah, that is good. So for people who don't know, Brad Goss is the most triggering children's book author on TikTok, probably the only children's book author on TikTok. Seems to make the snowflakes a little upset from time to time.
Maybe the only triggering children's book author. There actually are some actual children's book authors who reach out to me.
Yeah. Are they reaching out because they want to work with you or because they're like, bro, come on, this is not appropriate?
No, they're like, how do I get a following? How do I do what you do? And I'm like, well, if you're writing real children's books, I don't know that people are going to stick around for them. So I don't know, you kind of have to have an edge.
That's what people don't understand. It's like the controversy is what works. People think it's...
Yeah, of course.
Like you would get so many more followers if you were polite and if you spread positivity. No, I wouldn't. It would be boring as hell. You would have never watched half the people who comment and boosted up my profile would have never watched me if I just said, hey guys, have a good day.
They tried that. Nobody cared.
You guys are the ones creating the monster. The more you interact with us and make us blow up, the more we're just going to keep putting out that content.
I find it really funny when somebody duets or stitches one of my videos to tell their 10,000 followers I'm a piece of garbage.
Yeah.
It's like, thank you. And then if you go look through their comments, some people are like, actually, it's kind of funny. And then they get more angry because a few of their friends are like, a few of their followers have not been triggered and they actually like it. And it's like, every time you do that, I scoop a few of your friends.
Yeah. It's such a standard MO. That's how I built my entire account, was that philosophy right there. And I would even start telling that. I don't know if you followed my old account, because I was Nick Foster Jokes before I got banned. They took down my account. And so this is my second account, which I think is when you started following me. So I had a whole story before all this, and then they like I was at like 540,000 and they deleted me, but I got all my followers back in a week. So you pretty much came in
a week.
Yeah, it was 10 days to get all my followers back. So I was like, there was no, and I realized like, oh, okay, there's really no stopping you. Once you have a following, people are going to refollow you no matter what. But the whole old account was just so much of the content was making jokes that would offend people, trigger people, and then me mocking the fact that, hey guys, I'm just doing this to get you to duet my videos and spread my videos. If you don't want me to grow, just stop reacting, just ignore it. And I would mock them, and they could not stop doing it.
They can't not.
No, it's such a human nature.
They have to do it.
Yeah. You use, and that's what I'm doing, is I'm using outrage culture against them. I'm using their own outrage to boost myself up. It's just a lot of people can't do that because they can't lean into the hate, but you have a perfect brand for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons why we resonate so quickly, is because we're both doing the same thing. I like that phrase, lean into the hate. That sounds like a best-selling book right there, Nick.
Do it.
No, I mean, for you, I think that's a book for you. I already have 43 books published. So you could definitely lean into the hate.
Well, I actually have been writing a book, not writing a book, but outlining a book that I have, which is called, like, the loose title is The Art of Trolling, because I'm a very, practiced troll, but I have certain rules and philosophies that I live by. And I think it would be a useful book, not only for how to be like a good type of troll or comedian on the internet, but also for people to learn how to deal with the hate and what not to do. Because so many people make the mistake of apologizing to the mob, deleting the video, backing down. Yeah. And then it's just, they tear you down more. You're stuck forever.
Oh yeah. They smell the blood in the water, and then they dictate every move you make after that.
Yeah. And I think it would be a good book. So it's something I have a lot of chapters outlined, but I have no time to sit and actually write a book. The books you write are great because it's like,
take an hour.
Yeah. You just throw a little poem together, which is hilarious. But what about the cartoons? Is that all you too?
I own a company called Vector Toons. It's a clip art company. That's my main business, and we have like 4 million cartoons on license, just like an iStock photo or a Shutterstock.
I looked through it,
but it's and so most of them come from there. And then I have a full-time cartoonist who works for me who likes to remain nameless because he doesn't want to put his name on my stuff. And so he just does, I just pay him in advance and commission the work to him. I'm like, hey, here's a bunch of dead baby ideas I want you to draw. Here's a bunch of conjoined twins or whatever that I want you to draw, and he'll draw them for me.
So he's the artist that also does the Vector Toons on your website?
No, so Vector Toons is a separate company. My comedy is not a part of that. That's a Brad Goss venture.
Yeah.
Vector Toons is a company I'm involved with a partner on. They're kind of separate, but what was happening was I was sponsoring as Vector Toons, as the marketing guy for Vector Toons. I sponsored a bunch of YouTubers. They would come to me and they'd be like, hey, can I use some of your stuff for my thumbnails? And, give me some store credit and I'll put links in my YouTube videos. I'm like, yeah, okay. We can do that. And I started looking at what these guys were doing, and I'm like, why not? I've always wanted to do comedy. I've gone to Second City for stand up, and I love humor, and I'm like, I could do what these guys are doing. They were doing something completely different, but I'm like, I could sponsor myself, and so I could build awareness for Vector Toons while building a comedy brand, and just sort of decided to sponsor myself with the cartoons. So anything custom that I do, I just have a guy that does them for me because nobody's going to buy dead baby clip art.
Yeah. Well, you never know. There could be a market for that.
It's true. You never know.
So you got into the children's book thing recently, relatively.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been doing like humor for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, but just purely like I've done a couple open mics and, just like purely for the fun of it. I used to do a lot of like, business keynote talks and stuff like that. And so I wanted to get better at being funny. And then the more I liked being funny, the less I wanted to teach people about business. And the more I just wanted to make them fucking laugh. So what happened was I started doing kind of more and more funny stuff just for my Facebook friends or whatever. And I did this series called Rejected Children's Books. And I did a Facebook ad campaign for Vector Tunes for it, and I did it with my Facebook following, just my friends. And I posted these, hey, I submitted this to a publisher, but they rejected it, and it was, like how daddy got an STD or why mommy hits daddy or whatever, and people were just dying laughing. And then when I got on TikTok, I was doing all kinds of, my first 20 TikTok videos were just garbage, me trying to figure out what this audience wants and what they don't want. And then I'm like, I had 100 of these done. I had like 100 of these just covers done. So I started showing them on TikTok, and I showed the covers and nobody said anything. I play music in the background. And then one day I made one video and I just said, my name is Brad Goss and I write children's books, but my publisher always rejects them. What do you think of this? And then I showed why mommy hits daddy. Boom, 1.5 million views on that video. I'm like, the hell, this, okay. And all the comments, I'm reading the comments and everybody's like, you need to read this book to us now.
Yeah.
Where can I buy this book? We need to read. And I hadn't written it. I just made the cover as a joke, right? It was just like pure joke shop. This is the cover, nothing more. And then I'm like, they want me to write the book. So, I just sat there on my iPad one day, Dr. Seuss style, writing a dirty limerick, just like put it together. And then I read it to them. I didn't have it illustrated. I just read, I held up like the fake book cover and I read this printed piece of paper on the back. And then they were like, we need to see the pictures. And I'm like, fuck, I got to illustrate this thing now. So, but each video got like 1 to 2 million views every time, every iteration. I'm like, okay, I'll give you pictures.
Yeah.
So I did the pictures and then they were like, where can I buy this? I'm like, I got to publish it on Amazon now. So I self-published it on Amazon and then it started selling. I'm like, people are buying these books.
This is perfect.
I'm blown away.
Yeah.
Right. So then, my whole, like, it took a few iterations. It took a few versions. I'm glad we're both drinking on this podcast.
Yeah. Cheers, man.
I brought my own. Cheers to you.
I know. I'm always like drink because I need to I'm working all day. I'm doing so many different things. And then it's like 8 o'clock. I'm like, I need to get into conversation mode, get a little fuel going. But every guest I have, I don't think any of them have been drinking except for you. So I appreciate it.
We're on the same page. We would be good friends if we lived close to each other.
I think so. This is the start of a new friendship.
There you go. So I changed my whole workflow to become, design and write the book, publish the book, which takes about 24 hours from the idea to
that is
on Amazon.
So crazy fast.
Hours. Yeah. And so then I wait for it to be on Amazon, and then I don't even have a physical copy of the book yet. I do like a keynote slideshow of the pages, and I do a walkthrough of the book. And I can tell whether or not the book's going to do well just immediately by the number of views the video gets. And then at the end, I always say, whatever the book title is, Thirst Traps is available on Amazon. And, and then they're like, oh my God, can I really get this? And then it starts selling. So I have like 43 of these books and they all sell. That
is amazing.
$10 books.
You stumbled upon the perfect monetization strategy for TikTok because you have a perfect tie-in with I thought it was all much more strategic than that. I didn't know you stumbled into it because I was like, this guy came in with a sales pitch and a product and something that he's not like pushing you to, but drives you to want to buy. It's like the perfect content for making money on TikTok.
So many people say, why do I need to buy the book? You just read it to me. I'm like, you don't.
Yeah.
You don't. But if you want to, you can.
Which obviously people do.
Yeah, lots of people do.
Wow, no, that's awesome.
I wish I could say that, I executed a perfect plan and I came in with I just knew exactly what to do and pushed all the right buttons, but I fell forward the whole time.
That's great.
And, just kind of like, but the most important part for me was I read every comment. I still do. And I was like, every time I saw any kind of a trend pushing me in a certain direction, I followed it. I'm like, okay, they want this, I'm going to do this. They want this, I'm going to do this. They say publish it, I'll publish it. They say make stickers, I'll make stickers. Make a poster, I'll make a poster.
Well, what if they say delete your account and kill yourself, bro? Because I get a lot of those comments. I'm like, I'll ignore those.
I only actually pay attention to the positive feedback that drives me towards more money.
Yeah, that's good.
The rest of it, I just troll back. I just make reply videos too.
I can tell. I saw you did the delicate flower warning. I was like, that's brilliant.
Dude, they were so mad at me, and I did one that was just delicate flower warnings. There was actually no content in the video, and someone came in and got mad.
Of course,
it was like, you should stop calling people delicate flowers, and somebody was like, imagine staying past the trigger warning. Like,
That's my theory too. I'm trying to make some joke about that. It's like trigger warnings are not effective. They don't make anybody stop watching. They just make you watch it. What has a trigger warning ever done? Yeah. And people
every time I put one on, they stick longer.
Yeah, people have made the argument, like when I'm like, you don't need a trigger warning. They're like, all TV shows have trigger warnings. It's like they have trigger warnings for your parents to keep you from watching. Nobody has ever seen, oh, this is TVMA, sexual violence. I'm not going to watch it. It's not for you. It's for your parents.
Yep. Yeah, I have seen so many people that say to me, and I love engaging with people who troll because a lot of the time they're so easily boxed in. And, especially when usually they're coming from like a left position or a right position. And if they do, you can kind of say, okay, well, if they believe this, they probably believe this other stack of things that their peers in that group believe. So I can kind of push in on, oh, so what you're saying is you want to censor me. No, I don't believe in censorship. Okay. So what are we talking about here? And like you can kind of just mess with them a little bit, manipulate them. Or one of my favorite things to say to people is, how great is your life that this is the only thing that you're outraged about today? And then they'll say, this is not the only thing I'm outraged about today.
I'm outraged about 10 other things on Twitter that I read from my iPhone sitting on my couch.
Yeah. Could you please give me that list? I'd like to see all the things you're outraged about today. I want that list.
It is. People are very soft these days. We have such a great life that they're looking for reasons to be outraged because there's no real trouble in the world. I saw a thing, I want to keep up on politics and everything, and I'm always like just listening to different things. And somebody was saying about like, I'm just so exhausted by this president. I'm just so exhausted. It's like, what are you exhausted from? Because you watch the news and read Twitter all day and haven't done anything except sit in your house and order Uber Eats and Grubhub for the last 6 months? What is so exhausting? You don't have to watch it.
I have been doing that. It's pretty exhausting.
Yeah, well, I know. It is. I mean, it is chaos if you get invested, but people are acting like they're fighting on the front lines or they're like slaving in the fields to provide food for their family. They're just ordering on their iPhone and reading tweets they don't like for the most part.
Yeah. Go tell your great grandfather you're
I know. But I'm sure they would be pretty stressed out if they saw society today too. It's not like grandparents were immune to being triggered and not from PTSD from World War II, but just that girl has pink hair. Oh my God, what is society coming to?
It's true. Everybody has their thing to be offended by.
Yeah. I think
when you got banned from TikTok, did you have any 7-day bans before that, or did you have what did that look like?
I had a few. There was a few where I got banned for a week. I'd say maybe 3 or 4, not sure, maybe 5, no more than 5. I got banned from commenting for a week, or banned for posting for 4 or 5 weeks. Banned from commenting probably maybe 8 times or something. And I had several videos removed. I'd say 20 to 30, 40 max. I'm not sure, but I posted like 1,000 videos. So, but they never tell you the reason. They never tell you what the video is getting taken down for. They don't tell you what comment violated. Sometimes they'll tell you the comment, which is interesting, but they don't tell you on the videos what gets taken down. And then I was on vacation. I went up to Atlanta to visit my family and I hadn't really posted all week long. And I got banned during that week when I didn't even really post a video, and they just, no warning, took my whole account down, all followers gone, all videos gone, never got it back, just gone. No warning. Wow. So the best thing you can do if you're concerned about that is start getting your audience elsewhere first off, but also you should probably start a second backup account. And at least, because I had at least had a backup account that I had for, it was Nick Foster IRL in real life, where I was just kind of showing me out with my friends and girlfriend doing things, just to give a different perspective from like the jokes. And I had already had like 50 or 60,000 followers on there, which was good, but substantially less than my main account. But that was a great hub or seed for when I started up again.
Yeah.
I already had 60,000 people ready to go. And then I boomed back in like a week to the 540,000. So it's probably best to start now if you can.
Yeah, I may do that. I've only had one 7-day ban, but I've had about 40 videos taken down.
Ooh.
And and it's the same thing. I've only had one appeal that I've won. And then later they took the exact same video down and I lost the appeal.
Are you appealing every video?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, even for me, I was like, there was some I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. I won't appeal that one. But then some I'm like, come on, guys, put this back. And they'll put it back sometimes.
I always copy their terms, right? Like in the guidelines, it says like, you know, exceptions, satire or whatever. So I'll copy that paragraph and I'll put it in and I'll say, hey, you know, this is a satire. These are comedy videos. Yeah. This is not, you know, I think I mentioned the KKK in one of my videos and they're like, nope.
Yeah.
You know,
which I get, okay. You know, they just have they have a pretty zero tolerance policy to things like that. But it is also so vague. Satire one is up to interpretation. And a lot of time, like my type of satire is you kind of only get it if you watch a lot of my videos to kind of get that I'm playing a character. But if you're just looking at one video specifically, you could easily be like, this is hate speech. And
right.
It's up to the reviewer then at that point. It's so up in the air. And then their clause in their guidelines about, like, I go through everything and I'm like, I don't do any of that. But that hate speech clause is so vague.
Yeah.
Attacking people for their appearance or their gender. And it's like, I'm not attacking you, but I'm making a joke that might offend you.
Yeah.
And it's, what do you do?
I don't know how it works either. Nobody knows how it works. They're very secretive about it. Nobody talks about it. So I don't know if it's like ratio of complaints to likes or ratio, you know, it can't be number of complaints because I have one video that has like 100,000 people complaining about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've seen them commenting, like discussing it and saying TikTok responded to me and said they looked at the video and they're not taking it down. So it's like, okay, well then there's obviously some where they're like, hey, he's okay. And that video is why mommy hits daddy.
And that got a lot more views probably and a lot more likes. So the ratio is much higher for positive. Yeah, I think like it is. My gut is there's a ratio. There's some type of algorithm that judges whether the complaints are legit. It's not just a flat number. And then they'll remove it sometimes just based on the algorithm. And if you appeal it, then it goes to a human reviewer who puts it back. Yeah. And usually from that point on, you're good. But I have had a few where the human reviewer puts it back. And then a few weeks later, they take it down. And when they take it down a second time, there's no appealing. They won't even let you appeal it.
Yep. Yeah, you don't even have that button.
Yeah. And that's why
the same
I'm
thing happened with me when I had a 7-day ban. That the one time I had a 7-day ban, I hadn't posted for 2 weeks, and then I posted a video of me counting Kennedy half dollars at 2:00 in the morning. And right after I uploaded the video, it said you're banned for 7 days.
And you think it was that video?
No, it wasn't the video. They said due to multiple guideline violations, you're banned for.
That's their standard text, though. They say it every time. They say that every time on every ban, and you never know. Like, was it this video I just posted? No, it's just multiple guys.
No, I think it's like it was almost like I had to clear my cache or something because it was like I hadn't posted anything for a week or 2 weeks, and then I posted this video of me counting change, and the funny thing is I got banned for 7 days, and that video got 2 million views while I was banned.
Yeah, I've been talking
I was just counting.
You know Ray William Johnson on the platform? He was big OG YouTuber too, if you remember him. He's the guy who does like the roast of big TikTokers. He like roasts them. You should follow. You'd probably like his stuff.
Oh yeah.
He's very big and he's doing great. But he's verified. He was the #1 YouTuber in like 2010 era, like the early YouTube. He's like a famous OG YouTuber. And then he disappeared for a while. Now he's really killing it on TikTok. But he's verified with millions of followers. I think he's like 2 or 3 million followers. Verified from TikTok. All of his roasts are consensual, are good fun, where people ask to be roasted. He makes it clear in the video that they ask. He even bleeps out bad words, and he's been getting banned left and right too. He's hitting me up like, Nick, like, are they going to, he's basically asking me like what I dealt with because he's afraid he's going to get banned too. And I'm like, bro, you probably have nothing to worry about. You're verified. You're big. It's so clear your stuff's in good fun. And they banned him for a week. He did this whole series about it. And then they banned him for a second week while he was still banned from the previous week. So he's still in the creator fund making money. And I'm like, this makes no sense. Like any reviewer could click on your profile and realize, okay, you're a big verified creator. Everybody's part of the joke. It's all in good fun. You're finding the proper line. None of it is that bad. But he's having huge problems with videos getting taken down. And it's like, why is he you would think if you're verified, they're saying, we kind of approve of your content. And we're at least going to take a closer look at it. So I have no idea.
Somebody told me that you get a representative after a certain number of followers.
I would hope so. That's what I would think, but it doesn't seem to be the case because he seems to be completely in the dark about what's happening. And so from all these accounts,
weird,
and I've heard this from other people, and I'm just trying to I know what happened to me, and I'm just piecing it. And I'm also like an app developer, so I kind of know the algorithm stuff behind the scenes, or can kind of figure it out. But you have to just piece it together based on what you think. So that's just my gut instinct. But I don't know.
So that's what you did. That's what you do outside of this. You're a developer.
That's what I used to do. I'm full on the content and the comedy now. That's kind of like what I've wanted to do for years. But app development, I was an independent app developer for iOS games, and that was paying my bills for many years. So I kind of neglected doing content, but I always knew. It's kind of like how you stumbled in the perfect promotion strategy for a product. I had the product that was like a good digital good that could make money, but I had no audience to drive downloads to my games. And I knew I need to build an audience somewhere, but how do I get people to download? My games aren't about jokes or my personality. They're almost like family friendly games. And I had I couldn't bridge the gap between like marketing and downloads. And then I was like,
people think the hardest part is developing the app. That's the easiest part. Getting people to download your app is the hardest part.
Yeah. And that's why I was so fascinated when I saw your stuff, because I was thinking like a marketer, because I always thought maybe I need to start with a product and figure out content to push the product, or just build an audience and then find the product to fit the audience. And then I came upon your thing, and I'm always spotting people who do this well. And you have a perfect content to product strategy. And I was like, I just assumed, I at least assumed you were making children's books before TikTok and you got on there specifically to do that. So it's fascinating that you just stumbled into it.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's great, and you should pour fuel on that fire. That's a unique niche, and yeah.
So you're not monetizing your people at all, or are you like? Do you not have a strategy for that?
No, I have a strategy. I'm putting merch together, and I'm going to do a lot of merch for like kind of joke that I'm going to put into my jokes. I have some good ideas, but I've not really dabbled in the merch yet. So I'm on the fence of that. I'm doing a lot of podcast channels. I have a podcast with my girlfriend. I'm doing this podcast, and I have other YouTube channels that I'm now doing a Patreon. So I'm dabbling in that. But how I really monetize my audience was in OnlyFans. Me and my girlfriend would post something.
I saw that you and your girlfriend had an OnlyFans.
Yeah. So that was a quick way to make a couple grand, or start making some money each month. But I haven't been posting. That's not the goal. That's not the end goal. That was just like a fun thing. We do that anyway, so whatever.
You're filming it anyway.
Yeah, we're doing it anyway. She's down to film it. If we can make a buck off it, whatever. But people were really.
I did a children's book called Mom's OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
I think so. Yeah. It's perfect.
So I did it, and it was a mixed race couple. The dad was black, and a good chunk of the comments were, "Why you got to make the dad black?"
Like it would be better if you made the mom black.
Well, exactly. And so I was like, okay, I didn't even. Here's the funny thing: I didn't even understand why they were saying that. And I'm like, what's the problem? And he's like, people are like, well, there's a stereotype that black men leave their families. And I'm like, well, you brought the racial stereotype into this conversation. I didn't. I just have a mixed race couple. Why does divorce got to be racist?
Yeah.
And they're like, you made it racist by making him black. And I'm like, okay. So I took those replies, and what I did was this video had like 1 million views. And all I did was I made the dad white. I just changed like 3 slides in the video. And I'm like, just for you, I made the dad white. And then I made the exact same video, same voice track, everything. And then it got like 500,000 views. And then the complaints were, you need more racial diversity in your cartoons. I'm like, just for you, I made the whole family black. And I just redid the whole thing like over and over and over again with different.
You can sell different versions, like the Asian
now
version.
The mom's black. Now now the kid's black. Now just did
that's funny. And then they'll come at you for like, you're just tokenizing us. You can't you can't win. That's why you just got to make jokes off it.
But that's the thing. It's like I'm not afraid to talk about race, right? That's like one of the things. I'm a middle-aged white guy who
of course you're not afraid to be racist.
Yeah, because I'm not afraid to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like a middle-aged white person talking about race is the scariest thing to this culture. And so when I'm not afraid to talk about it, they get more and more angry. And this came from my website, Vector Toons. We have these one of the things we did early on was we had these cartoons that were on the edge, like people committing suicide, like someone hanging themselves or whatever, right? So I wound up with these images of a black man hanging himself, a black woman hanging himself. I also have a white woman hanging himself and a white man hanging himself. And what happens is people find the black man hanging himself on Google Images, and they send me these nasty messages, and they're like, how dare you share this image? This is a racist image. And they said, why is it racist? And they're like, well, because he's hanging from a noose. I'm like, well, he committed suicide.
That's you're pointing out how they are assuming some racist stereotype that you never said because you're just vague, and they're filling.
I'm like, you want to tell a story about suicide? Use my image. You want to tell a story about racism? Use my image. But if you want to attach a racist narrative to a cartoon you found on the internet, that's on you. 100% on you,
especially when you have a white guy too, and they don't find that, so they don't know the context of there's a diversity of characters here. This is, and then so.
Like, I'm going to tell everybody about your company, and I'm like,
oh no, please, please don't give me free publicity that most companies would have to pay lots of money for. Well, before I get on that point, it's similar to Donald Trump had a huge controversy when Portland and all these cities were going, or after the riots, and he was like, these thugs and criminals need to be stopped. And then everybody said he called black people thugs. He never said black people. He just said thugs. And so it's just putting their mindset out where they assume it's black people because he said thugs. And it's that same principle all over.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Everybody has their own internal racist narrative, and they attach it to everything they see, and then they just assume everybody else thinks the way they think.
Yeah. When other people might just be like, oh, that's a black guy killing himself.
Yep.
Damn, now I forgot my other point that I was going to say about that. It was about the guy committing suicide and the racial diversity, and I don't know. We'll have to let it go. Yeah.
We'll have to let it go.
Yeah, so Vector Toons is no longer your main thing. You're now focused mostly on the books because you stumbled into this gold mine.
Yeah, I'm 100% focused on humor and comedy and the books and the merch around it. I did a poster launch last week that's done really well. I sold autographed Dead Babies posters. And so next is autographed conjoined twins posters.
See, that's what's perfect about this too, is you have the great tie-in to the sellable product, but then you also have characters that you can merchandise and license and all of this. You own the licensing rights to these characters?
I own the copyrights on everything, yeah.
That's amazing. Have you ever thought about like doing a cartoon, a new South Park style?
I'm down. Yeah, I would totally do that. I think the issue becomes, how much time do I want to spend producing content and how much time do I want to spend releasing content? Yeah. Because I can bang it out fast right now. If I start animating, I'm either going to have to shell out a ton of cash or I'm going to have to do it myself. Yeah. I know how to do it, but it's like being an app developer, right? You can have a great app idea, but then you actually have to, sit down for 3 months or however long and do the work and not be paid for it. And
then you're neglecting the content that you need to market it. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Yeah. So it's not worth the extra effort for the small extra squeeze when you could just do this all day. It's not low effort, but your workflow is manageable. It is
low effort. No, it's low effort. No, there's no question. It takes me an hour to write a book.
That's amazing. See, I was thinking
this would take 1 hour.
That's right so here. Great.
This is an hour of work, and written, illustrated and published to Amazon in an hour to 2 hours insane. If I have the idea in my head.
Yeah, I was wondering how long, because I was still assuming there was okay, he has these books, he has to go through all these, it might take a couple of weeks to get a book published. But you're saying, so even those videos you do, you're not even holding the book. Those are just slides that you put up in the background?
Well, I do it over and over again, right? So I publish it to Amazon, and then within 24 hours, it's live on Amazon. Then I do a slideshow version of the book. And then a couple days later, I'll have it delivered by Prime, and I'll open up the envelope, and then I'll read the real book to you like it's story time a second time.
That's great.
And so I reuse and repurpose that same piece of content in multiple videos. And but yeah, it only takes if I come up with a book today, I'll put it on TikTok tomorrow. It'll be live on Amazon tomorrow. It'll be live on TikTok tomorrow. You got
a factory going.
It either takes off or it doesn't, but it's all low effort. I've also built the first book didn't take me an hour. Book 43 took me an hour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I built templates and workflows, and you're a programmer, you understand, like there's a lot of things you can automate when you've done it 40 times. So like, okay, I know, I'm always renaming things to this. So I've got a script I wrote for that, and a script, all these little things.
Oh, exactly.
To, make a clone of the last book, and, make it easy for me to just, repurpose and redo.
It kind of is. My stuff was like puzzle games, word games, like trivia games. And I literally did start where it took me like a while to learn how to build a game and make the levels and do the design. And then I just had like coded libraries that I kind of did the same type of game, but I could change the colors, change the levels, change the structure. But most of the code was written, and then I could get games out every couple days if I wanted to.
That's the key, right? Is when it's duplicatable.
Yes. That's
when it becomes something you can grow and scale into something much bigger. And I feel like maybe there's a cartoon down the road. Maybe there's more than just self-publishing these books. And like I did I've been collecting them into like a multi-volume books now, and doing a lot of other kind of stuff. And it's like, I feel like if I just keep doing that, and if it has enough of a future, sometime will come along and be like, hey, can we turn this into an animated series where I'm just getting, some creative consulting deal, and I'm not actually having to worry about how to animate this stuff or hire the people to do the production. It's just, the return is so much easier if I just keep shitting it out.
And you're building such an audience. Somebody will, already brands are going to reach out and try to, market, but then somebody might just see you and be like, hey, you already got a name behind you. Let's use your characters, and maybe even have you write it or whatever, but they'll have the team and the, the connections in Hollywood or Netflix or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I feel like you should definitely be doing merch, though. I mean, I think that there's a missed opportunity with that much of a following. You could be doing, thousands of dollars a month in merch sales.
Well, I was very close to launching when my account got taken down. And because that happened, I was in freak out mode, and I had to kind of just focus on getting my audience back. But because I'm also, my main goal is to get my other podcast channels going and diversify my audience, because I'm thinking much longer term than the short term buck, but I'm at the point where I can make money. But I was really kicking myself that I didn't get enough of my audience. I wanted to start a Discord community or get them to my Instagram and a lot of things like that. So I kind of have been, I got banned last month, just over a month ago today. And so now I got my audience back. I got my momentum back. I got my content flowing again. Now I'm like, okay. So I've actually been dealing with a designer today, actually. He finished up some designs, and I'm going to, talk to him tomorrow to finalize things. And then we're going to start doing that. And I want to make merch that is more than just buy my merch. It's all about putting it into your content in a way where it fits your joke,
It has to be positioned in, and then the merch itself becomes the inside joke, and people love it. And
exactly.
Then they feel like they're a part of it.
Yeah. And that's even for everything. It's for getting them, because a lot of when TikTok was almost banned, a lot of people were like, go follow my Instagram, go follow my YouTube. And it's like, that's not going to work in the last second of just begging people to follow. I'll put my Instagram in sometimes when I can, and I get this small flow. But the biggest boost I had on my Instagram ever was when I made a joke that I put on TikTok that made people be like, I got to see the comments on that Instagram post. And I never even told them to go to my Instagram. And I got the hugest boost to my Instagram followers ever. So it's just put it into a joke. Yeah, this was during the George Floyd thing, after George Floyd, and that's all TikTok was dealing, if you were on then. And then everybody was posting the black square on Instagram. Well, I just had the balls and posted a white square, and I just had the caption, it's okay to be white. Because everybody's posting black, and I just said, I have to do the opposite. And it's not like, I'm not trying to say white people are better. That's not even the message. It's there's nothing wrong with posting a white square either. And I just then took that screenshot, put it on TikTok with the sound that was like, no, you didn't. Or, that's what it's implying. And I just posted that, and I was just like, everybody, without even saying it, just flooded my Instagram, because it was during the day when they're just like, my whole thing is black squares. I gotta see what's going on this. And it was huge. And that's how you do it.
Wow, that's funny.
Yeah. That was like the biggest. And my comments still, if you find that white square on my Instagram, just read the comments. There's 5,000 comments, and it's a lot of hate. Just Hope you die. How dare you, you piece of shit. I got DMs from a bunch of my friends being like, Nick, no, man, this is too far. Not cool. And I'm like, guys, you know what I do. I do this all the time. And you got to understand, I'm trying to build a brand here, okay? I got to get this opportunity to get people over here. You know. But that is how you got to figure out how to promote by putting it into the joke, not just, guys, please show me love. Go over here. Nobody cares about that.
It's funny, I've been doing, because I've been scared to lose my account as well, I have been trying to push them to Instagram and to YouTube and to other places. And a couple of strategies that have been working really well for me is I do my lives. I don't know if you do any TikTok lives, but when I go live on TikTok, I put my GoPro, I go on my iPad and put my GoPro right next to it. And I record 4K widescreen on my GoPro right here at my desk. And the whole time I'm on live, I tell them, I'm also recording this on my GoPro because, you know, TikTok doesn't keep my live streams. And all my videos on YouTube are like 1 to 2 minutes long, right? So they're really, you know, I'm not getting watch time. I'm not getting the metrics that they want. So I started uploading these 2 and 3 hour live streams to YouTube, and my watch time has gone through the roof.
Okay.
And people are coming to watch my TikTok live streams. And what I figured out is, and I just figured this out like maybe yesterday, the people watching my TikTok live streams, a good percentage of them are people who are on YouTube and searching for TikTok because they've been told, their parents have said you can't have TikTok, or they just deleted the app because they're scared of China or whatever it is. And so now they're on YouTube and they're searching TikTok videos.
And you're hitting those keywords and just getting
traffic. And I'm grabbing them, yeah. And so now they're watching a 2 hour TikTok live stream and they're thrilled because, you know, I'm answering questions and you know, they feel like they're a part of this live stream.
Okay, yeah, I'm pulling you up right now. That is HD quality, dude. That's so good. That's the move.
Yeah, so that's where I've been moving them over that way. And then the other thing that I did that's been really effective is I had one book banned by Amazon, and it was called "You're Going to Camp Coronavirus Because You Didn't Wash Your Hands."
I saw that video today.
So that video did really well on Amazon. That was like right before COVID came, right before lockdown happened. That book was selling like 50 copies a day or more, sometimes 100 copies a day. Because when you went to Amazon, this was before we were all locked down, and you'd search for coronavirus, my book was the first or the second result on Amazon for coronavirus.
Yeah.
And after lockdown happened, the book was like moving up the charts, dude. It was doing really well. I'm like, oh my God, this book's selling so well. And then they just banned it. And I was so upset. Like, you know, and you know how that is, right? It's like you get banned from a platform or they take your book down. It's like, it's this defeating feeling. And then like, I stopped making videos.
Don't censor me, bro.
Yeah, I got a little upset about it. And then I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I got to keep going. You know, I can't just, that was like book number 6 or something, right? And I'm like, I got to keep doing this. And so what I did was I started talking to TikTok about how this book was banned. I can read it to you. I have one copy here. And if you're one of the people who bought a copy, you're lucky because nobody can get them now. And the overwhelming result was everybody's like, where do I get this? I need this book. I have to have this book. And so what I did was, have you heard of Gumroad?
No.
Gumroad is like, it's a platform where you can sell downloadables. You can sell physical goods. It's like it's kind of like a Shopify, but it's more basic. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I found really effective as a marketer is, you know, if you tell somebody something's free, they lose interest. If you tell somebody something costs money, they lose interest. But if you tell them it's pay whatever the fuck you want and $0 is acceptable, there's this curiosity in them where they're like, really, can I really put in $0 and get this thing? And then they put in $0, and Gumroad doesn't ask for a credit card if you put in $0, and it just says, give us your email address, and it stamps their email on the PDF, and they have to go to their email to get the PDF. I'm like, you can download this book for free. It's pay what you want. $0 is totally acceptable. I totally understand not everybody can buy this book, so get it for free if you want to get it for free. You'll end up on my mailing list, full disclosure. And I'm starting to get people giving me their email addresses to get this PDF of this book that's been banned by Amazon. They got to have it. So they go and they get it, and now they're on my mailing list. And then I'm like, hey, get a Dead Babies poster. Hey, get an autographed copy of this. You know, and I start mailing them stuff. I'm an internet marketer. That's what I did long before all this. Yeah, it sounds like you're right? So
expert on this.
So now I've been going after them and getting them on my list, and they're slowly migrating over. I mean, it's nowhere near the following that I have on TikTok, but if I can get, even if I could get, 10% of them over to an email list in the long term, that strategy is effective. So if I keep giving away downloads and giving them stuff and, here, go download this, go grab that. And then I do, merch giveaways and whatever, it all works.
And you can retarget those email addresses on Facebook advertising, Instagram, all of that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I can mail them. I can retarget them. I can do whatever I want with them once they're on that list.
That's what I'm saying, man. You stumbled into the perfect thing. It's like this, all the moving parts are there, all the hard parts that people have a hard time figuring out. How do they build the audience? That's really hard for people. And a lot of people, they're like, I don't know what to sell. You got both covered.
Yeah.
Plus the strategy of how to think about it.
Yeah. The other thing I think really worked for me is this background.
Yeah.
It's like, I do all these videos and you can kind of see a little bit of what's going on behind me, but there's always like people trying to figure it out and look at it. And, there's so much interesting behind me that it's become, I think, a thing too, where they're like, yeah, I got to see, can you give us a room tour? Can we see all the stuff on that shelf? Like, I did one TikTok live where I was doing a show and tell. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, I'm going to read a book and then I'm going to grab something off the shelf and bring it here and show it to you. And they were like, oh my God, this is amazing.
That is, and it's TikTok's the perfect platform for that too, because the audience is mostly skewing young, and they're going to be into what you got going on in the background, because they're the kids who love this stuff, but they can't afford to buy it, and you're the grown-up version of the kid that's like, I can get whatever I want. Nobody's going to tell me no.
Like, they're like, you have a life-size Venom bust? I'm like, yeah. Well, how much did that cost? I tell them how much it cost. Like, oh my God! They're just like, that's what happens when you're a grown man. Oh. You can buy whatever you want.
So what were you doing before all that? I mean, I know you had Vector Tunes, but that's been the main thing you've been doing, or did you have other marketing jobs before that?
I've been a full-time internet entrepreneur since 1997.
Damn.
So I started out in the adult entertainment business. I spent 10 years in the porn biz. I was number one for porn on Google.
Really?
For 18 months.
Like as a star or as like a filmmaker?
No, my website. No, I just webmaster.
Gotcha.
So I would license content from studios and stream it to the user. And so I had the number one website on Google, like the first result for porn for 18 months from 2006 to 2008.
Do I know what the website is? Have I heard of it?
I don't know.
Is it bangbros.com?
No.
Probably not.
No, it's not. But it was a free, kind of a YouTube kind of a site for adult content.
This was pre-Pornhub?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're like, really were like a pioneer in the industry.
I was. I did that for just over 10 years. It was a good business to be in at the time, but then, when the financial markets tanked, people stopped paying for it, and they were just like, oh, I can get it for free. I'm just going to stop paying for it. And the revenue just kept dropping and dropping and dropping. And I think it was 2008. I made the conscious decision. I can't do anything in this business anymore. And so I moved into what everyone in that business calls mainstream, right? Selling other stuff outside of
and you're like, this is perfect. I'm going to transition my porn experience into children's books. I mean, not directly, but it is funny.
Well, there's a 12-year gap from there to here, right? So then it was like, I started doing like internet. I tried to be this like internet marketing guru guy, and because I knew a lot about it, and I was good at it. And so I moved into mainstream, and what happened was I told the story. At first I was embarrassed to say what, the industry that I came from. And then I realized this gives me like huge status and like street cred in the mainstream world. So they started inviting me to speak at conferences about what it was like to be in that business.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I transitioned, and started like companies were like, hey, can we give you equity to advise us, and on how we can scale this and how we can, how we can take some stuff from that world because we know they're on the cutting edge. How do we, translate that over here? And so there was a lot of that kind of stuff that went on. And then I got sick of being that guy. And I was just like, I've always, even when I was a kid, I always wanted to be professionally funny. It was like always my, like I remember saying I wanted to be a comedian when I was like 10.
Yeah.
And, and so it's always been in the back of my mind, but I think I had convinced myself that I either wasn't funny enough or I'm not going to be able to monetize this unless I can, you know, whatever other pieces of the puzzle I thought I needed that I didn't, you know, and then it just kind of fell into TikTok and found an audience and, you know, I mean, I've only been at it since November.
Yeah, that's right when I got on too. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, being a comedian back in the day, there isn't much strategy unless you get very popular and you can sell tickets. There wasn't YouTube. There certainly wasn't self-publishing funny children's books. There wasn't TikTok, you know? So it was a bit of I probably had a similar theory of like, oh, that's so cool. You can just talk and make people laugh and everybody's like fawning over you. You know, that drew to, but I never thought it was a realistic path. But yeah,
not without paying your dues and staying at Days Inns and
exactly.
Toledo, Ohio, you know, and whatever. And it's like,
and that was actually because I did stand-up comedy in like 2011 to 2013, just open mic type level on, and maybe some featured sets in the local Atlanta comedy scene. And I loved it and I did good. And I know if I kept at it, I could have been successful as a comedian, but it was so much hustle of just, you got to be here at this time. You got to drive, you got to pay for tickets. You got to have minimum drink fees, whatever it is. It was just, there's so much more of a grind that's outside of just doing comedy. And I was doing games at the time and doing app development, and that was paying the bills. And I was like, I don't think this is the priority. And I think I can break into this industry a different way without even knowing what the goal was. But YouTube was a bit of I think I could do YouTube. And then you just keep at that. And TikTok came out, and it's like, there's so many people who can become a successful Twitter comedian or TikTok comedian, Instagram, Vine, whatever it is. There's other ways to break in. And now that you have an audience, you could easily, you know, if once COVID's over, I could go do a stand-up set and sell tickets right away if I wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the beauty of having a following somewhere, is that they will come to see you. If you say, hey, I'm coming to your town, they'll come.
I don't think I feel confident enough in my comedic skills without practicing again to be like, I'm going to sell tickets. But, you know I have an audience, and I think, there's the art form of telling comedy and doing jokes and trolling on TikTok is its own thing that doesn't really necessarily translate to stage anyways. You got to, do punchlines and all that. But I did
an open mic right before lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
And all I did was I brought my books with me. And I'm this like middle-aged guy, and they're like, okay, next up is Brad Goss. He's a comedian. So I open up my laptop bag and I pull out these books, and I'm a creepy looking guy, right? So I'm like,
which adds to the comedy.
Books. Yeah, I'm like, I've been working on some children's books, and then I get a little chuckle. I'm like, the publisher keeps rejecting them, and then a little more chuckle, and then I'm like, I brought some, and then I hold them up. I'm like, don't bathe with Uncle Joe, setting boundaries with adults. And then they just start laughing, and it's like, and then I just, I keep, giving them titles, and then I'm like, okay. And they don't think that they're actual books. And I'm like, which one would you like me to read to you? And then they're all screaming out titles. Right. And then I start reading the books to them, and they're like, oh my God. And they're like, the audience loved it.
Yeah. That's a unique thing too. See, you have such a good niche brand that translates to so many different mediums. Cause that's kind of like, who's the puppet guy? He has his niche. And then who was the, I always blank on names.
I always think it's like, you might be a redneck if, right? It's like
kind of
Jeff Foxworthy, he had that, like, that was his thing. He's still like, he's required to do those jokes because people expect him to do those jokes even now.
But it's also something that is difficult for somebody else to copy because you got to write the books and publish the books, and it has a different skill set behind it that somebody's not just going to pick up. What was that other comedian's name who used to do the doodles to tell jokes, and he would be up on stage with the paper and he would like do doodles? He was famous. He had a TV show. Totally blanking on his name. Like a brown hair bowl cut kind of young guy, and it was a good niche, and he was very unique with his style, but it was like, it only worked for if he had visual aids up on stage, but it became very hard for people to emulate, and he got super successful in that. I think that would be great, and that's a great way to also promote your books, You
can buy all these books.
Yeah. So are you thinking about doing stand-up more seriously?
Yeah, I mean, once all this blows over, I would love to do that.
Yeah.
It's definitely something. I kind of set the intention this summer, that not this one, but the one before, where I wanted to do more and more comedy, and the end goal, like I was at a mastermind group with a bunch of friends, and they're like, well, best case scenario, where do you see this going? I'm like, Netflix special. And they're like, okay, so what do you have to do to get there? And one of the guys, Brian Fanzo, who was there with me, he's a social media guy, and he was like, you need to be on TikTok. He's like, they favor original content. They like, they prefer people who make their own sounds because they don't have to pay royalties to the music creators. And so if you're doing original content on TikTok, it could go viral, it could do well. And I was like, oh yeah, this is like September. So September, October, November, that's when I started on TikTok. And it wasn't probably until December that I started to see some videos go viral. I'm like, okay, now I see this. So, hopefully this gets me to that goal faster, where so. Maybe someone will come along and say, hey, we would like you to do a Netflix special in front of an audience, or, doing more stand-up 6 months from now translates to that, or whatever. But ideally, yeah, I mean, I'd love to do, I'd love to have a bigger audience.
I think the TikTok is probably, as much as stand-up is a very important skill and a hard skill for people to learn, and you can't really do it without doing it on a stage. There's a lot of ways to break, having you have 250,000 plus people following you, almost 300,000. How long would you have to do stand-up to get 300,000 people to be tuned in with what you're doing every day? You can't do that.
It would be a 10-year grind.
Yeah, for sure. So I think, keep going on the TikTok.
Yeah. I think these kinds of things, it's like, TikTok's the biggest app right now. I think you build an audience there. It's like building an audience on YouTube 10 years ago, and the deals will come if they're there for you. Maybe they're not there for me, and I'm cool with that too. Like, I'm cool if it just stays where it is, and I keep, a year from now, I got 300 books, and
I think you got
the sales grow the way they've been.
You got the better route because you got the independence. You don't need the deals. You have you have a product to sell, and they're going to come. Cancel culture is going to come for you eventually. So as much as you should take the bag if some deal wants to give you it, you can't count on it, because as soon as there's some cancel movement, they're going to just pull out and you're on your own. So I'd say
I'm 100% in control of my publishing, other than the fact that Amazon could ban a book, but they've never done it. And I don't think they will, other than that one book. And I think the only reason they banned it was because it was trending for coronavirus when people were trying to sell bogus cures and stuff like that. And I think they just took it down for a completely different reason. I think they just took everything down that said coronavirus.
Twitter was doing something similar, taking things down that could be conspiracy theories or whatever. They took down a company that was actually a real scientific research company that had a real product where they would get ultraviolet light into your bloodstream as a real remedy. And Donald Trump had said that crazy thing, like, what if we put the lights inside the body? And people were like, that's ridiculous. But they took down this account, and it was a real company, and they were like, we really have a patent on this technology, and you took us down like this was some scam. Could you put us back? And I think a lot of, platforms were just nicking things.
Yeah. So I don't think they're ever going to take down a book. No. I mean, I've seen they have a book up about, like molestation, or they have all these terrible books on Amazon that don't get taken down. So I'm imagining mine won't. I'm in control of my printing. I print all my own merch. Like, I use Redbubble for my on-demand stuff, but then all the autograph stuff, I just have the posters shipped to my house, and I autograph them and send them off. Like, and if Redbubble canceled me, I could move to another merch platform. I have my buddy owns Gear Bubble, Don Wilson, so I would just hit him up and be like, hey, can we put all this on your platform? And I think ultimately they can try to shut me down, but that just makes it more fun, because it's like, okay, hey, they shut me down over here, now we're over here, and then everybody gets excited because you're not taking it. You're not letting it happen.
I agree. That was a big reason. I had tons of views when I set up my second account and got this huge following back. They just respect, and even on my old account, because I had a bunch of controversies that, big TikTokers were trying to cancel me, sending their audience, and most people would apologize, turn off their comments, back down. But because I would just double down and make more jokes, people were like, I respect this guy. And they love that. People need more of that in today's society.
Absolutely. So what else are you doing with podcasts? Like, when you mentioned podcast channels, what is that?
I have a podcast with my girlfriend that we do kind of bi-weekly. It's Quality Time with Nick and Aaron. And I really like it. And it's unique because it kind of started right around the time I got on TikTok. So a lot of it kind of is me talking about some of my TikTok growth, which I think is an interesting perspective of hearing a creator go from zero to a huge platform. And it just happened to be in conjunction with the podcast. But we talk about relationship stuff and our life stuff. So I think it has that relationship unique angle, and it just gives a totally different perspective of me, considering women on this platform think I'm some terrible misogynist, but I actually have a great relationship with a great girl. And, it just gives a different perspective. And then I'm doing this podcast, and I love podcast. I love the idea of just talking. I love comedy and all of that. And I definitely put jokes in things when I just riff, but I like just having conversations with people. So I've been looking at doing that. In fact, before I got on TikTok, I have a channel over here that's just kind of like storage now called Two Cool Stools, which I have these 2 stools over there. And I would just bring home all these drunk people that I would meet at the bar, and I would sit on a stool with them and just turn on the camera and just talk shit. Some of them I met 30 seconds ago. They just come over to my house for some birthday party or something. And I'll just be like, yo, let's have a conversation. And I was editing videos every single day I wanted to build an Instagram channel, just like little quick minute videos. And I was doing it every day for over a year. And I got like 530 followers, literally nothing, right? And I was grinding, and I was like, eventually I'm going to hit this. It was just work, and nothing was happening. And then I got on TikTok, and like one of my first videos was like 10,000 views. And I was like, okay, enough of that. Yeah. I'm just going to do this.
Move on.
And, and it happened to be right when I started this podcast. So I was blowing that up. So I'm almost still, I think I'm at like 9,000 subscribers on YouTube, which would be very difficult without TikTok, but it's still nothing compared to what it will be if I just keep going. And then, now that I have this name for myself on TikTok, a lot of big creators were reaching out to me wanting to collab. And so I started this, which is just a great platform to talk with other creators about the issues they're dealing with, big and small, cancel culture stuff, and just kind of start, pushing back on this. And I'm just trying to diversify, but I don't know, it could take me in a different direction too.
What percentage of your following is female versus male?
I wanted to ask you the same thing, actually. My audience is 70% male, 30% woman, almost exactly.
What do you think mine is?
I would guess you have more females than I do. I would guess you have 40 to 50% female.
61% female.
60. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. But that is and if I look at who's buying my stuff, who's reacting to my videos, who's filming reactions of their friend or their kid or their husband opening the book, it's women.
Wow.
The interactions of the people gifting me in my lives is women. It's like, I would say it's 61. When I look at my stats, it's 61%. But when I actually get a feel for who's coming to my lives and whatever, it feels like it's more than that.
Yeah.
That seems to be my audience is women with dark humor, women who love dark humor and Halloween.
Well, women do love dark humor. This idea, I get so many comments from women like, you're a misogynist, women hate you. And it's like, no, they don't. A lot of women resonate with this. The only reason I have such a big audience it's not that I lost women. I had 50-50 for like the first many months on TikTok, but then I really started trolling on this makeup issue for a while. You never saw my old account, but I stumbled into it and it caused all this chaos, and I just kept going. So all the followers I was gaining was mostly men. So I never really lost the women. It just skewed more men. And then, of course, my audience is about the same as I started my new account. But women resonate with it. Women love dark humor. They love an asshole, and they'll never admit it. Those women will, but the women, the alt girls and the liberal girls on TikTok, they don't understand. But I also would think for you, women are probably the ones who are buying children's books for their kids, and there's a lot of single mothers too. So who's most likely going to be buying children's book? It's not going to be a dad who's not even present. So I would assume that might be a big reason why your audience goes that way.
I've always, what I really want to know is what percentage of people buy my books for children?
Yeah.
What percentage are buying them as a gag gift for their adult friends?
Yeah,
and
true.
It's like, what is that? Where does that look? What does that look like?
Yeah.
How many kids under 12 actually get my books?
Well, I would think that there's not many parents who are unironically getting those books for their kids as like an actual children's book. But I would think maybe a lot of parents are buying it for somebody who has a kid more as a gag gift for the parent. But like, here, I got you a children's book. So that way it's, it kind of plays both sides. But they don't probably expect the kids are actually going to sit down and read it. Although some probably do, I'm sure.
One of my favorite things is when people take it seriously and they're like,
how could you?
No, you can't sell those books to children. They get so mad. And I did it. So I did this video on the weekend where I was like, everything's been going great. Thanks to TikTok. I sell all these books, and thanks to you and loving my particular brand of Dark Humor. And today I've reached a new milestone. And then I stood in front of the daycare center down the street and I'm like, I'm opening a daycare center. And like all these people were like, no, don't do that.
Oh my God.
I hope you get shut down. And I'm like,
yeah, I'm really doing this, guy. People don't understand irony and sarcasm, satire, any of this at all. Like, that's why it's so important to do this, is we need to bring it back. I don't like, who's the good satire anymore? The Onion, Babylon Bee, if you've been following them, they're doing some good stuff, but it's political. Yeah. But who else is good? All the late night talk show comedians are all just standard liberal talking points who are almost preaching. They're not even doing jokes. And I don't mind. I'm an independent. I don't care which side you make fun of, but make it funny. At least try to make it funny. Like old school Stephen Colbert to me was the epitome of great satire, huge influence. Brilliant. And you look at him now, and it's like, what happened to you, bro? I know you got the check. You're on the network TV, but dude, you could make this appealing to both sides, and instead you're just preaching to one side. And I don't think people know what comedy is anymore, like satire comedy anymore.
No, I don't, because I think everybody feels like they have to take a side. And it's actually really easy for me because a lot of people will ask me, especially when I do lives, they'll be like, do you support Donald Trump or Biden? And I'm always like, I'm Canadian. So
that's good.
I don't care what the people underneath me are doing. I really don't. Like,
do you have an opinion?
Of course I do. Everybody has an opinion.
Do you want to say?
Sure. Yeah. I'm not, like, I don't really, so I shouldn't say I have an opinion because I don't really like either one of them. I watched the entire debate.
Yeah.
And
it's a shit show.
halfway through, my girlfriend was like, I'm going to bed. I'm tired of watching the grandpas fighting, and it was just like, it was so bad.
Yeah.
And so I watched it and I'm like, it makes me happier to be Canadian, even though I don't necessarily love our politicians here. At least they act with some level of decorum and professionalism. So, I mean, I don't know if I were an American, I don't know, I would vote, but I don't really know who I would vote for because I don't know if either one of them is the right choice because Biden looks like he doesn't have his wits about him anymore.
No. Yeah.
And, I don't even like when in that debate when they were like they're all talking at the same time and Trump's like, who do you want? Trump's like, which group do you want me to denounce? And Matthews is saying one thing and Biden's over here going, Proud Boys. I don't even know who that was.
Yeah.
And then he said something. He's like, stand back and stand by or whatever. And I'm like,
so bad.
I'm like, I don't even know what that means. And a friend of mine who's a conservative Republican who I talk to every day. He lives in Mississippi. He ran for Congress. Brian Rose, he's another TikToker. He had to explain to me who the Proud Boys were. And he's like, I actually think he was signaling to them. He's like, I have no idea why he would. And I'm like, I didn't even get that.
He's signaling because they're a huge part of his support, and he can't lose them, but he has to pretend like he is.
But then on the other hand, I've seen him renounce the KKK. I've seen him say, like multiple times, I renounced David Duke and the KKK. I don't, these hate groups he says he renounces them. I had never heard of these people before.
Well, the thing is, it's a bit of a misnomer because the Proud Boys actually aren't a white supremacist group. They have a lot of black people in their group. Yeah. It's not like that, but it's so
the leader is a Hispanic guy or something, right?
Like, and it's just all twisted. But it's not like they're the best figurehead for his support. You don't really necessarily want them either. But this idea that it's just a bunch of white guys who are racist, that's not what it represents.
Right. No. Yeah, I didn't know anything about it, right? So
most people probably don't.
I would imagine not. I had to get educated on it the next morning, but it's like when you watch this debate, I'm like, I honestly don't know because I'm independent too. Like here in Canada, I've voted conservative, I voted liberal, I've gone both ways in different elections. It just depends on usually what the issues are that are being discussed in that election. Like, I know like here in Canada, when Justin Trudeau, our liberal guy, won, it was because he promised to legalize pot.
Yeah.
He did everybody wanted that, and he did it.
Awesome.
So,
did he do it in blackface though?
He should have.
I know.
He should have. But now he's a complete screw up.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, so you never really know who to vote for, but it's like, so do I have an opinion? I don't like either of them. Yeah. I guess is my opinion. Well, I wish there was a third choice.
That is a reasonable answer. And I can totally see from whether you're in America or not in America, why you could look at Trump and say, he's not the best example. I get why he's a turnoff to people. I'm not shocked when people are like, you don't love Donald Trump. Of course, I can see why not. But when people act like the sky is falling and he is the worst human being in the world, he's not the best human being. I would never argue that. But you can understand that he's not Hitler, but people pretend that's what it is. And that's where I'm just like, okay, I'm going to troll these people. But that's a very reasonable response to be like, yeah, either one's not great. And I agree. But in America, Trump was not the best choice. He was a weapon against all these other duds. It was just a wrecking ball to the system, which is kind of the reason I supported him. And I wanted to ask you, which kind of gets into if I was explaining why I support him, because it's not for his policies or anything. It's mostly about free speech issues. And in Canada, you guys don't have constitutional free speech, correct? And aren't you dealing with comedians who are getting locked up for hate speech or getting fined or getting punished for things that they say?
No, we have a constitutional right. We have a Charter of Rights and Freedoms that allows us freedom of speech.
And you don't feel any of that is being infringed? I mean, I'm in a bubble where I might be hearing skewed things from both political parties, so I'm asking from your perspective.
Well, I think where you're coming from is there was a story that made Jordan Peterson famous. You know who that is?
Yes.
And so he's here in Toronto, the University of Toronto, where he was a professor there. I don't know his whole story, but there was some legislation that required you to refer to someone in the gender pronoun that they request. And it was the first time that a law had been put on the books in Canada that compelled you to speak a certain way. Mm-hmm. And that's why he got all this bad rap because he basically said, hey, I'm standing up against this because we should not compel speech. We should not require you as a person to say any word. We shouldn't force you to say a single word. Yeah. If you don't want to call me by this gender pronoun, then we shouldn't box you in and force you to say that. But I don't know, and I haven't really followed the whole thing, but I don't know that actually became a thing. But I think the only time it becomes a problem is if someone is saying, I want you to refer to me as they and them, and you continually call them dude or guy or sir or whatever, and you're doing it in a way that's like,
antagonistic
and insulting them in a hateful way. Yeah. And to that extent, I think it's okay because it's no different than someone saying, hey, don't call me a honky or a cracker, and you keep calling me that thing. Yeah. Then that becomes you speaking in a hateful way towards me. So there's different ways to argue that, but the law doesn't compel speech as much as it compels you to respect what someone asks you to call them. And I'm okay with that. If somebody says to me, hey, I don't want you to call me by a male pronoun, I want you to call me by a generic pronoun or by a female pronoun, then I will instantly correct myself. Yeah. Because I'm okay with that. I'm okay. If that's what you want, then I will make sure to respect that because I want to be a respectful person. I don't want to be I don't want to be the type of person who keeps calling you sir after you clearly told me it's ma'am. Why would I do that?
And I think most people would agree with that. And most people are not going out of their way to do that. And I totally agree with that as well. It's just when it comes into legislating it, that's where I'm like, okay, it's one thing to say, you're saying it's one thing to say I fight against legislation that forces me to use certain words, but I also would fight against legislation that punishes me for not using them or for using different words. Because yes, it's very rude to call somebody who clearly wants to be identified as a female, just calling them a dude just to piss them off. But you're allowed to call somebody a fuckface and you're not going to get in trouble, Right. There's no, right. And as far as from America's perspective, that's where I'm very First Amendment free speech fundamentalist of any type of movement I see in culture that's trying to push back against, whether it's rude or hateful. I'm not fighting for your right to be hateful, but I am, because I have to defend that right to keep it open for all ideas and all types of speech, for when it gets taken a different way against something that isn't hateful, but anybody could argue, well, this also it's a slippery slope type thing.
And I agree with that too, right? So that's where it's like it's hard when you have this kind of like this stance where you believe in people's freedom and you don't really care to lean on one side or the other, but all that you care about is that people can just be free to keep doing what they want to do and not be told, hey, you can't say that, or you can't do that, or whatever. But I mean, there is a point where any speech can be converted from speech to, harassment, to bullying, to other things. You can say, I can call you fuckface, but if I keep calling you, if I'm following you around and I'm calling you that enough, now I'm harassing you. Now,
if you're following them around,
free speech
but that becomes an action. That becomes something slightly different. But this is where it kind of is being, freedom of speech is slowly being eroded, and hate speech is kind of becoming pushing back or controlling hate speech, because we're not going around in the real world following people on the street. We're talking on Twitter. We're talking on TikTok, and these platforms.
It's all hypotheticals.
Yeah. And the platforms are putting in rules. You're not allowed to say a lot of things on TikTok or on Facebook or on Twitter. And in a way, that's creating a culture where people just expect these are things that are not allowed. And I understand that's a thing that's going to happen. And I think society should mature, and we should not be going out of our way to just insult people's identity and that's not what I'm about. But I am holding the ground of, don't erode my freedom of speech. And if that means I have to step over what you think is the line of acceptable speech to prove the point, I just am compelled to do that. And I think, I don't know, that might be a uniquely American thing, but I feel like Canada understands as well. And it's interesting to hear the perspective from across the border.
I'm not a typical Canadian.
Yeah.
So I don't fall into that. I don't like hockey. I don't go to Tim Hortons.
Get out of this country, bro.
And I whenever I come to America, do you know what the thing is that I do almost every time I come to your country?
Football and apple pie.
Shooting range.
Boom. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one.
I go to the shooting range. I love to shoot guns. And I took my girlfriend to Vegas, and she had never shot guns before. I'm like, we're going to go to the gun range and we're going to shoot some machine guns. And she's like, okay, I don't know. And she was like a little reserved about it, but she's like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, trust me, it is the most amazing feeling. Like the first time I remember was in LA. The first time I ever did it, I was in LA for it was back when I was in the adult business, and I was going to a party at the Playboy Mansion, and a friend of mine was like, "Do you want to go to the shooting range?" And I was like, "Absolutely, I want to go to the shooting range." And he took me to the shooting range where they filmed Jackass, where they shot the beanbags at his nutsack or whatever. And so they had pictures of Johnny Knoxville up on the wall and stuff, and they took me to the shooting range. I'd never fired a gun before. And it, like, at the end of that night, I had so much adrenaline and I felt so cool. And when I took my girlfriend, it was the same thing. She came in reserved and she left with this grin I could not wipe off of her face. And she was just like, 2 hours later, she just grabbed my shoulder and said, "Babe, we shot guns today." I'm like, I know, it's amazing.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people don't understand. So many people are like, America is crazy with their guns, and why do you need them? And first off, because they're fun. It's just fun. And if you're not using them to shoot up a school, it's just good old fun. And in America, we want to have the freedom to have fun, and we need to fight to keep those freedoms. But I think there is, what is your thoughts on the actual Second Amendment type philosophy of America? Do Canadians look at it as, you guys are nuts down there, or do you understand it?
Many do. I don't. I understand it. I fully believe that an armed population is definitely more equipped to stand up against a tyrannical government.
Yeah.
So I applaud that, the Second Amendment and the right to have a gun, because I think it is a right. And in Canada, it's not. It's like a driver's license. It's a privilege.
Yeah.
And you have to jump through a lot of hoops to be able to own a gun here. And having said that, I kind of think that that's okay too. So I think it goes both ways. I think we do need, mental health and background checks and other things in place before we just start giving people guns. But at the same time, I think the idea that they can be taken from you or seized, like, I know you guys have this like red flag law thing that's been happening over there, where like your neighbor can file an affidavit and say that you're crazy and have your guns taken away. And I think that kind of stuff is a little nuts, So, I mean, it's definitely very restrictive here, but there's no shortage. I live in Toronto. There's no shortage of gun crimes. I mean, we have murders and gun violence here all the time. It doesn't stop criminals.
What is I'm sure you have other forms of murder weapons that if they can't get a gun, what's the second runner up? Knives?
Yeah, of course.
Cars?
Yeah, of course. There was a guy in Toronto that drove a car through a whole bunch of people in the street, and yeah, there's lots of other weapons. There's no shortage.
Was that the incel kid? Did I hear about that?
Yeah, that was here.
Oh God.
Yeah, that was here.
I watched his interrogation. It was pretty sad. It's like, girls, you could have just given this guy a hand job and you would have saved all these guys' life.
He called them all Chads and Stacys.
Yeah, he was just using all the lingo, which is funny because I got on TikTok and the first thing everybody does is be like, you're an incel. It's like, first off, I have a hot fucking girlfriend. I don't think I'm an incel, but it just devalues what it actually is, because this kid was like a true incel, using the lingo, believing the philosophy, killing for the philosophy. And now it just means like, you're a virgin, you're a loser, Just you waste the word. That's what they do with it. That's why Trump got elected too, is they just throw around Nazi and racist for everything. And then it doesn't mean anything anymore. And then it's like,
it loses all of its effect.
Yeah. Which I'm very curious. What are they going to say about the next guy? What happens when we actually get an Adolf Hitler, the second coming, running for president, and they say he's a white supremacist racist? People are going to be like, you said that the last time. I guess it's not true.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't listen to you anymore.
Yeah. Well, dude, this was a good conversation. Before we go off the rails on American politics and, Justin Trudeau's blackface, is there anybody you like? Who should we, or like, where should we draw or drive people to follow you? Vector Tunes, your YouTube, your TikTok?
Go to my YouTube channel, or go to Brad. Here, I'll give you this. Bradzy.com. That's my that's where you get my merch.
Okay.
I think it's backwards, but anyway. Just BRADSY.com. I have these autographed dead babies posters that I sell. You can have one.
Which one's your favorite dead baby?
My favorite dead baby is the one right in the middle that is suffocating from a plastic bag.
How are you not canceled, bro?
and then the one in the washing machine is also my favorite. You know why? Because that's how every porn starts now. I'm stuck in the washing machine.
Stuck. How am I going to get out of here? I don't know, but I'm going to get in you. Bow, bow, bow. That's so true. All right, everybody.
You and your girlfriend should do that on OnlyFans.
Dude, we're working up to it. Here's the thing. We had to take a pause, because not to make this a dark turn, but since we're talking about dead babies, she got pregnant and then had a miscarriage. So we have our own dead baby situation. But now it happens. But now we are back into we're back to ourselves. Everything's good. And now, it was actually a bit of a blessing in disguise, because we're like, how are we going to keep this OnlyFans going when you're like 9 months pregnant? But now we don't have to worry about that. So you'd
have way more fans by the way when that happens.
Dude, I think you're right. Actually, you're probably right.
I know I'm right.
That's so crazy, because that's what I was thinking. And then after I made the announcement, our subscriptions went up, and I was like, this is fucking weird. But she wasn't visible yet, so who knows?
It's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Well, I got to talk to you more about the ins and outs of your prior knowledge of the porn industry, but also I have a lot more questions about the self-publishing book because I'm trying to get into something similar. Not even just the book I was telling you about, but I too used to write poems a lot when I was young. Not like these necessarily provocative poems, but like creative, fun poems. And I wanted to get into children's book publishing. So I'm sure you have a lot of information that I could get from you.
Yeah, happy to help.
Hell yeah, dude. This is a great conversation. We'll do this again. Thank you again, Brad Goss. Everybody subscribe to him and go to bradeasy.com and hit him up on TikTok. Try to cancel him. He doesn't care. Awesome. Bye, Brad.